How you doing, y'all? It's week 5 on Men's Room FTM, and this week's topic is presenting, passing / gender expression. I'm actually pretty excited about this topic because I think I have a bit to say about it. As far as passing, there's I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions on passing, like what are some good tips and things like that. And personally for myself, passing isn't sort of something that I adhere to, or it's not something that's important to me. And that's mainly because before T, and even now, I recognize that I have a very, very feminine face and everything like that. And it's less important to me that I try at this point, for people to perceive me a certain way when I don't feel like, it generally, I don't think it'll work, and I don't want to put effort into something where I don't think it'll work. And then also, for me, sort of in my transition, the steps that I take that are seen as traditional, like passing methods, like binding and packing, I do all of that solely for my own personal comfort. So passing, I don't know if I can say too much on it about actually actively trying to pass, because I don't do that. It's really important to me just that I'm comfortable with the way I look and the way I am projecting myself, my personality onto the world, more than how dressing a certain way or whatever will affect. I found that in the beginning, when I thought about the idea of passing, I realized that in order to do some of the things that I would need to pass, like sort of with inflection and stuff like that, I felt like it was compromising my personality to a certain extent, because I'm a really I have a really sort of like weird, varied personality. So I can be pretty masculine at times, but I identify as androgynous, which sort of leads into the next portion of questions of gender expression. But I identify as androgynous, and my personality is really sort of similar. So I found that certain things I'd have to do to pass would compromise, my personality or the way I like to dress, because I like my clothes to be fitted, not like tight, but fitted, because that's just sort of what I'm into. So I didn't want to have to get bigger clothes to pass more, and I didn't, like with my hair, for example, I never even thought about cutting my hair off because I love it so much. But there are some questions like, was there anything you used to help you pass? Like binders or packers. I didn't use it to help me pass, but I do use an Underworks double compression vest, as well as a tri-top from Underworks at the same time. And for packers, I bought the STP stud from the Transitional Male. I don't really use it as a STP. I don't have like that kind of like fine motor skills, so it doesn't really work for me for that. But I use it as a packer. I chose those products because they looked worth it. I had a friend who had used the binders before, and I tried, and they worked really well. And the packer, at the time I was interested in the STP, and it has a harness, so I like that. And it still works as a packer, the STP. So other than that, I don't have any more like advice on passing, just because of my like perspective for myself of passing. But for what form of gender expression do you identify with? So I identify as an androgynous male, and what that basically means to me is that I feel like my personality and sort of my spirit and physical essence embodies both female and male, like masculine and feminine characteristics. And so although I feel innately male and I want to be perceived as male. I also, at my core, feel androgynous. So it's sort of interesting because I've always sort of seemed androgynous, but it feels different to me depending on how I'm being perceived. If I'm being perceived as a female who's androgynous, then I don't feel it represents me correctly. But if I feel like I'm seen as a male who's androgynous, is what I'm most comfortable in. And I just feel for myself it's really important for me to stay in touch with both sides of my, feminine and, masculine essence, because I think it makes up my personality and just the way I view the world and the way that I relate with the world, because I feel like everything in our earth, and I think in the universe too, has these sort of characteristics, the feminine being anima and the masculine being animus. And I feel like it's something that goes fundamentally into sort of that basic sort of matter and essence that makes up the world and makes everything function within each other. I think those two attributes, femininity and masculinity, sort of like encompass all that we live in. And of course, amalgamations of those two, like with being genderqueer and things like that. So that's how I identify as androgynous, and that's sort of what I think about it. And it doesn't transitioning to male mean that you need to be a masculine male and abandon your feminine traits. And so definitely I'm a proponent of saying no to this, because when I first began, researching it and figuring things out, I first came out as androgynous. I was actually pretty hesitant to identify as FTM for a long while. Some of it was because I was afraid of the huge leap, but also I was afraid that it would just put me in this society's box that is male, with all the stereotypes that come along with it. But you definitely don't have to be a masculine male to be a man, and you definitely shouldn't abandon, your feminine traits. Just be you. There's no one way to be anything. Be you. So if you're more in touch with your masculine side or you're more in touch with your feminine side, whatever, live your life in a way and express yourself in a way that's most comfortable with yourself. And I think that's what makes being trans so awesome, because we've been given that perspective of being socialized and raised female, and now we're developing into these new male identities, which really is giving us a clean slate, an empty palette to sort of shape our own identities and even challenge the world a little bit in how they think about gender expression and stereotypes and all of that. So be whatever type of tranny that you want to be. I was just watching boxing with my friend Kaden, but at the same time, I love me some Broadway, and we were just talking about that. Like, there's so many, it's wonderful. There's so many different ways to express yourself, and I just, I promote and hope that everybody will feel comfortable enough to explore themselves completely when it comes to, how they want to identify and not let anything hold them back. So I hope that answered the question and the topics and everything. I'll see you next week for week 6. It's already week 5, y'all. That's crazy. So I'll see you for next week, week 6. I'm sorry I'm putting this up so late. It's been a busy day. Alright, y'all. Take it easy.